Director Sid's normal crew for the in-person con is 6, maybe 7 people. And they're primarily concerned in sound, light, staging, what have you, for main tent events. For his virtual con, I think his tech staff was more like 50.
Mm-hmm.
It requires a lot more people to actually do the tech. And if you're trying to do a hybrid con, it gets even worse, because not only do you need the techs that you would normally have working the on-site con, performing tech, but you're also going to need techs handling the virtualization for anything that you intend to put out later.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like a TV program where you've got a live studio audience, and the program item is, you know, the panel or whatever it is, and the live studio audience are the attendees in the room. But then you've still got the cameraman, you've got the sound man, you've got the director, you've got, so all of those things get added to the pie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was wondering if outsourcing staff would be an option. I made a topic on the mailing list.
It depends upon what you mean when you say outsourcing staff.
Well,
For a pure virtual convention, one of the wins that you have is that the techs working on your con do not have to be local.
mm-hmm.
They can be remoting in from elsewhere. When you're doing a hybrid con with an in-person content and there's stuff that you want to virtualize, those techs must be physically present at that con.
Right, but you'd still have some number of techs who could be off-site.
Oh, yeah,
handling. Yeah,
I mean, the virtual component is in some respects its own separate thing, which is connected to the in-person con.
right.
But it won't be a seamless blend.
Yeah, what I was thinking of, the issue is if a con needs like 40 volunteers working virtually, remotely, and then the day of the con, 3 or 4 of them call in sick, and you're stuck. If there's some company that had like trained staff, India, that you could just call up and say, hey, I need 5 people to come in to do this.
I don't see that being feasible. Problem number one is that when you're talking about the kind of conventions that we're talking about, you are talking about a very specific culture and lots of assumptions about what's being done, about how it's being done. Even if you could afford the costs of outsourcing to someplace like India, you're still going to have all sorts of problems because they may understand the technology. They will not have a clear idea of what you are trying to do, how you are trying to do it, and who your audience is. Basically, if I'm going to be involved in that and I'm looking at staffing, I am going to do my best to overstaff and have more people than I actually need, simply so that I have coverage if people call in sick. And the other issue is that everybody that you have working tech is not all going to be actively doing tech at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people will sign up, there will be shifts, there will be schedules, there will be things that they will be assumed to be doing, but worst case, people can also provide coverage for others who suddenly couldn't be there. I don't think that's the worst problem in the whole world, and I don't think it merits thinking about something like outsourcing to India.
Okay. So, from a sharing information standpoint, can you hear me?
I can hear you fine.
Okay. So, I'm going to put the recording of this online so people can see this later. Since you just addressed what's in the mailing list, I'll probably have like a reply in the mailing list to this section. And try and figure out seamless ways of getting this information findable.
One thing that I would be, how do I put this? I think it's probably a good idea that you're recording sessions like this and we'll make them available after the fact. But anything that can be done in terms of not merely recording the session as it takes place, but transcribing it as text. One of my annoyances with a lot of stuff nowadays is, oh, gee, everybody is going to expect me to sit through a video. No, I read a lot faster than I watch. Provide me written documentation. I can always look at the video to clear up fine points, but I can only do one thing at a time, and spending time watching video is not one of the ones I want to spend it on.
I agree. I mean, previous sessions, I've just taken the Google captions and put it as, searchable below. Have you seen the pages on the site?
Not yet. I'll have to go look. And
it needs editing, obviously, a lot, but I at least have something out there.
And there's a limit, I think. Hello, John. Hello, Bethany. There's a limit, I think, to.
Sorry, I'm actually Rachel. Let me change my name.
Can I just check something also? What was this due to start now or?
Yeah,
yes.
About now.
Good. I just got out of bed. I'm making some coffee. I'm still listening. It took me 5 minutes to get the audio to work on this.
Not to worry, John. We'll still be here. Drink your coffee.
You're right.
Yeah,
you
I
will.
had a bit of an issue that the meeting passcode wasn't showing up on the page, but it shows up in. Yeah, you have to log in, and I didn't realize I wasn't logged in. So yeah, if other people are being slow, they might be being dumb like me.
Interesting, because I didn't have to log in. I'm going to leave my microphone on while I make the coffee. Just tell me if it's annoying.
I had a problem with the email with the meeting password in the previous instance, but the most recent email that I got included it. I could just copy and paste it into.
I mean, right now.
Should I have had an email with the password in it? I don't think I did.
I didn't even have a password. I just went straight through from the web link.
Oh, yeah, it made me enter a password.
Yeah, the web link should include the password.
So when I say from the web link, I mean from the actual web page, giving my name, my email address, and my preferred language. Bang, in.
Oh, okay. I didn't do that. I just tried to click the join via Zoom app, and then it demanded a password.
Yeah, that doesn't happen automatically.
Anyway, the password is on the page, but only if you log in.
I think this is as a piece of feedback. I'm not sure whether coming in through that web page was what brought me undone, but it took me 3 goes before I could see the audio interface I wanted to use.
What version of Zoom client are you running, John? On what machine?
The Windows 10 and the latest
5.4,
less one, I think.
Yeah, that's 5.4 dot something.
Yeah, 5.4 dot something.
The confusion that I had with Zoom client originally trying to use it is that I had lots of fun trying to tell it which audio interface to use. Because my webcam includes a microphone, but I actually wanted to use the headphones. And then I go into, and Windows thinks there are 2 different audio devices. Okay, which one is the right one?
Yeah.
And then the headphones that I was using that actually worked with the microphone failed. So I'm currently using the one in the webcam.
It sounds right.
Yeah.
I had a slightly different problem in that I'm using the decked headset. I'm somewhere else in the house right now, so picking another microphone next to the PC wasn't an option.
Your headset works. We can hear you.
Yes.
We will see your smiling face when you have coffee.
Did you start to say we will see your fat?
No.
God, that's what it sounded like, Dennis.
There have been some classic stories about people unintentionally exposing themselves in Zoom calls.
Oh yeah. I got dressed. I actually had that in my first virtual convention when I went into a reading room just to check that it was all going okay. The camera switched on when I wasn't expecting it to, and that was Jitsi. It just defaulted to coming up with the camera on. And secondly, I was the only person in the room who wasn't the reader. So it was a bit obvious.
Yeah.
Things like that will continue to happen. They will continue to create wonderful apocryphal and anecdotal stories.
I will settle for not being one of the prominent people that will spend the rest of their life living that kind of a mishap down.
Yeah. Well, this was just me as a pleb. This is me, one of your factor of n times number of people that it takes to run a virtual convention.
And in fact, we were just having a discussion before you joined us on the number
I
of people that it does take.
Heard on the back of that. Okay.
I don't happen to have it handy. John, do you have an order of magnitude estimate for exactly how many people were working virtual tech for you in Con Zealand?
Well, it's probably not the question you're asking. I had, I don't know, around between 20 and 30 people, but that was core tech. Janie sort of just usurped the operations mission. I don't know how many people she had.
So
I
many.
had estimated that for us to run Con Zealand, I think we were going to need like 170 people, so that people weren't running ragged.
Okay.
I plotted it out well in advance because we had no basis for guesswork.
So you were very definitely conservative in your estimates.
Pretty much.
Yeah, trying to.
And on the day, enough people didn't turn up.
Well, this was something else that we were just talking about. The last virtual con I worked on was Virtual PhilCon, where you were doing overnights for us. At the in-person PhilCon, Sid's tech staff is usually 6 or 7 people.
Sure.
For Virtual PhilCon, I think it was more like 10 times that.
And that would include people managing Zoom, or managing the rooms.
Well, that's part of what would be included. PhilCon is nowhere near as large and complex an operation as Con Zealand was.
The biggest theoretical challenge that I saw, and it turned out to be correct, was you have to have a mechanism in a place to manage everything, because self-help doesn't work, because all the people who are involved who would normally go, oh, the presenter hasn't turned up, we'll just do something in this room instead, doesn't work if there is no room.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go and ping Zbang and find out if he got the message or is turning up, because he should be part of this conversation. So I will just mute and make a phone call.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm sorry that I haven't really been paying attention, because I was actually running a virtual event last night. Was there
lucky you.
Honestly, I'm also not well, so that was fun. So yeah, was there an agenda for this?
Yeah. Trying to kick off sharing information with the new mailing list, Groups.io. So I thought if everyone could sign into Groups.io, and if you have any resources to share, like if you've compared a bunch of different platforms and have a spreadsheet that you could share, or bookmarks for tools, or other groups that, it's just doing something similar. Like I missed SMARTCon, but they just posted the videos of the talks on transitioning to virtual conventions. So I posted that as a topic in the mailing list. And
Am I on this mailing list? Was I supposed to sign up to it?
well, here's the thing. If you look at the first page of Virtual ConCon, the
Mhm.
website, I changed it and I put on the support mechanisms the new mailing list. Because the current groups and forums in the website, it just nobody's using and doesn't seem to be that effective.
Mhm.
And groups.io
Oh
it's
yeah, there we
more
go.
concentrated, and with the hashtags, we could add the different topics. So when it grows, it could be filtered.
Jay, can I break in?
Sure, yeah.
Zbang has sent you an email. He's trying to get in, can't find a password, and the direct
Oh,
click mechanism doesn't seem to
Oh,
work for him.
yeah, I sent you the same email and then figured it out.
Oh, okay.
Where is the password on the page then?
Okay.
It's on the
It should be
meeting
there
page, but you have to
visible
be logged
on
in.
the informal meeting page at the very top. I just made it. It says Sunday, December 13th. We can discuss the agenda in this mailing list topic and passcode. I made the
In this
passcode.
mailing list topic. Oh,
Yeah, informal meeting.
okay. Zbang, I'll relay that.
Okay. The main menu says Start Here, Participation Proposals, and then Informal Meeting. Click on that, and it has a page for the meeting. I thought I. hmm. Did he get to the page?
Sounds like he's got the meeting ID, but not the passcode. So
Yeah,
we can go
which.
to it in Zoom, but not join.
Yeah, and.
And of course, now I can't find it.
Yeah, as I just updated the page, so even if you're not logged into the website, you'll see the passcode. Should I share my screen?
Jay,
Yes.
have you sent Zbang the Zoom password? He's not
Just share,
seeing it.
share your screen again, and this time don't scroll down because you
Okay.
knocked this meeting password off it.
Okay.
I've got him on my other ear, but I can't, of course, connect these two conversations.
Passcode 483437.
Passcode 483437.
Yes.
Can you, is it 483, 487? Was that it?
483 437.
437. Sorry,
Yes.
437. I have now managed to lose my. I managed to lose my screen that has the meeting on it. Okay, he says that's connecting, and I can hear. And it's connected. All right, I will hang up the phone with him, and then I'll go and find out what's happened to
Oh, and I see him.
my client. It just vanished.
Hi, Carl.
Steve, please. Hello.
Hello, Zbang.
I change the name again. So it's proper. Yeah, Jay, I spent 15 minutes looking for passcode.
Were you on the right page? The meeting page?
That's the one I got the meeting number off of. It says Stone Soup on it.
Could you share the screen? Your screen?
Let me let's see, share screen. Okay. You must enable participant screen sharing.
Oh,
Sorry?
there it is.
Hello, Dennis and Rachel.
I'm here. I managed to scroll the window off the page. It was still there. I knew it was there because I could still hear audio.
Okay.
Try this now. Okay, sharing, finding that one. And share that.
Okay, so you're not logged into the website,
Sorry?
and refresh that page. The circle.
Jay just updated it to put the passcode right up at the top.
Now it's there.
Right. If you were logged in, you would have seen it.
I just went to the page and looked at it 20 minutes ago.
Right. And also, if you had clicked on the join, if you scroll down a bit, scroll up a bit.
Yeah.
Which join thing? The one that says join by Zoom app?
Okay, that's interesting. Scroll up a little bit. This is interesting. Oh, you're not logged in. That's why it's not showing. Okay. Yeah, that isn't working if you aren't logged in.
That's okay. That's good to know.
Yeah, and
One of the tests.
yeah. I don't think we're big enough that I need to have that security. I won't do it in the future.
That or just throw the info in the email.
That's what I would do.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean that's the
It shouldn't
safest.
be necessary to go into the VCC website.
Yeah. Actually, if you're inviting people by email, all the information in email is probably the safest way to do things.
Okay.
Now,
Would it be at all helpful if I showed how we did it for the event I ran last night?
Sure.
I don't know if this is a system other people would want to
Sure.
use or not.
if I could remember how to stop sharing.
Yes, so that we don't have to look at a tab that says electrified locomotives.
I did that.
Yeah. Okay.
Zbang, send me a link to the electrified locomotive site.
So you should be able to see our con website, which doesn't look pretty at the moment because I only just completely rebuilt it from the ground up. But we had on our events list page, this is the party we ran last night. And it was set up so that you have to buy a ticket. It was free, but you have to go through the purchasing process. And then when you scrolled down to where it says virtual event details, it had a join now link. And that was also in the email that's sent out automatically when you buy a ticket, so that everyone gets the link in their browser that includes the password. So they just go straight through. but it still has that layer of security because you have to, I mean, it's not really security, but there's a bit of a hurdle that someone has to have gone to the effort of going to your website, actively sign up, give you their email address before they get the Zoom password. So it's not perfect, but we've so far, touch wood,
Security
not
by
had
obscurity.
Zoom bombing. Yeah,
They don't Zoom bomb you because they don't know you exist.
right, exactly. Yeah, the people I know who have been Zoom bombed, it's been because there are robots crawling around the internet looking for open Zoom links. So even the slightest barrier will at least avoid that.
Okay.
Has anybody experimented with restricting Zoom to verified emails only?
We've avoided that just because there are some people who are just really anti-Zoom and don't want to register for a Zoom account, so they don't want to have to log in. But yeah.
Oh, we don't know anybody like that.
Also, define verified email account.
Zoom, basically, it's like getting a free Zoom account, basically. It's Zoom recognizes your email and you can log into it, but you're not part of an organization. I think it was the other Rachel who was talking about using Zoom for their High Holy Days ceremony.
Yeah.
And specifically doing the verified email addresses so that they could let in exactly who they wanted to and no one else.
Yeah, I think
members of the congregation would get the info.
That's also a slightly different case from most conventions.
Yeah, a lot of conventions have a lot of, you can't use the word special snowflake now because that means something different these days, but a lot of people who are just very up in arms about giving their information to certain organizations and will make your life very difficult if you force them to.
Or giving their information at all.
This two things come to mind here. Was a certain guest of honor at a convention in the last year who would not use Zoom, period. Wasn't going to. And for reasons that were demonstrably inaccurate, but just like he wasn't, it's like, no, I'm, you can't make me. I seem to have signed on for another virtual convention on President's Day weekend, which isn't BossCon. And it's for my pyrotechnics group. And some of the people involved with that, I mean, you think some science fiction fans can get persnickety about sharing information. It's like these people, they have state and federal licenses. They have background checks. They have been fingerprinted. Yada 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 yada. And they don't want to sign up, and they don't want to use Zoom or some, pick your thing because it's invasive.
And they will go off like skyrockets as a suggestion. And because they are pyrotechnicians, they will be professionally going off like skyrockets.
And we're slowly putting things together for it. And Maze, you'll find this incredibly validating that I'm going through the same damn siloing problems that we had with Concealing. I mean,
yep.
Like my job is platform and technology, and I've already had to have a couple conversations with these seminars people that I know you do seminars online once, every, twice a month maybe, and you do it this way. That may or may not be a good way to do it for 6 in a row, and especially managing recordings and stuff more often. And yes, I have people who can work with this, and people who, getting them into any chat system that isn't like right in their browser will be damn near impossible. So fortunately, the web team for this one is reasonably clueful and realized that they could not. They realized that the group's existing website is sufficiently broken. It's lovely. It does what it needs to do, but it's not extensible. So they're just building a whole new one. And they got somebody who knows how to do that. But then I started dropping on them all the pages that they're going to need. And that, leave placeholders for it, even if you don't have the content, because you will need to list all of these things. And, what vendors, what are they doing? Well, the vendor chair doesn't have any idea because they're used to people in a big tent. So, and it's that, whine, bitch, complain.
And of course, the more trivial in real world terms that the problem is, the greater the whining and bitching.
Mm.
Zero with world problems. It's bad for me.
So is there any alternative to Zoom? Jitsi people didn't like blue jeans or anything practical?
People didn't like blue jeans because it's expensive. It's a long time since I've used blue jeans, and we didn't get to test it this for the Worldcon. It was just out of league. We tested Jitsi, Zoom, GoToMeeting. What's the Cisco one?
WebEx.
Yeah.
WebEx, yeah, WebEx.
I think we looked at Hangouts for half a second.
Oh, and we tested Google and Microsoft products. We eliminated both of those because they're just not really very friendly. They're locked down. The more functions you had, the more likely it was that we were going to use something. And interestingly, Zoom has about the most breadth of function exposed to the user, and that's the one that's most popular, which flies in the face directly of the conventional wisdom that you have to take all the knobs from people because they'll fuck it up.
Zoom got the nod when COVID-19 struck and it was pandemic and everybody was locked down and working from home. And an awful lot of companies decided that Zoom would be the technology that they would deploy to do that. So we have a large base of users who already had some familiarity.
Well, actually, my first experience with Zoom was a family thing where, Lorraine's stepsister picked this thing and I'd never heard of it. The thing that Zbang and I found, and we're sort of going back to January, February this year, the thing that we found was Zoom consistently worked. Regardless of what we threw at it, Zoom consistently did not break.
The guy who founded Zoom was a principal in WebEx. That Cisco bought them. He became a VP of engineering. He left WebEx. He left Cisco to start Zoom specifically to address the various issues that people were seeing in other products and make something that was easier to use.
Well, he succeeded. He succeeded really well.
I'll say that when Zoom fails, it fails spectacularly, and it's failed.
Yes.
Yeah.
There was something a couple days ago, apparently, where a whole lot of Zoom endpoints were just not answering. And of course, if you look, it was reported by was it Down Detector, I think, although not on the Zoom website itself. That was 2 or 3 days ago. But
any add-ins for Zoom that you guys are looking at or upcoming worth keeping an eye on?
Depends on what you're trying to do. I don't think there's a really good alternative for Zoom if you want video conferencing.
Yeah.
Well,
Jitsi, for example, is a very nice package, but doesn't scale. The Jitsi developers recommend that you keep the number of participants in a meeting under 40. Any reasonable SFCon is going to go way over that.
We also find with cons, obviously people are generally on their home internet, and Zoom is by far the best at really shitty internet connections.
Zoom tries to degrade in a reasonable fashion to work with whatever you happen to have.
And it's generally like people can handle the video being crap so long as they can hear, and the audio.
And as
Yeah.
long as they can see the other people well enough to recognize who they're talking to.
Yeah.
But WebEx, I've not tried WebEx in a while. You know, there are quite a lot of users out there, quite a lot of corporate stuff, and it may have caught up. But it's like, if you're trying to do a meeting of 10 people, there's a
You're
whole.
cutting out on audio.
Oh, sorry. My net connection's been a little flaky recently.
That's
Your
because
video's fine.
Zoom's
It's your
really
voice that
good
was
at
going
handling
away.
bad internet.
If you're trying to do a meeting, a peer-to-peer of 10 people, there's a whole bunch of things for that. But the moment you start trying to do 5 or 6 people out to 30 or 40, or more, all of a sudden that, you know, it falls over, and 8x8 is just on the inside. Microsoft Teams falls over. Google Hangouts falls over. You know, you're back to the purpose-built meeting software. Jay, you
You're
mentioned-
garbling.
You're dropping out, Z.
Sorry about that.
It's just the audio. The picture's stable.
That's weird.
Yeah. And it's sort of on peaks, but not only.
Yeah. I got a thought here. Let me.
Dangerous.
Yes, let me change the user.
Steady microphone.
Oh, that's
There you
better.
go.
Yeah, somehow it decided it wanted to use the built-in mic.
Oh,
And I've got like 3 or 4 mics on this.
Much nicer audio.
Yeah, well, it's a Blue Yeti. What was I saying? That, you know, when you're down in the 10 person, that's great. But when you start to go to the, you know, 6 to 8 head table towards 30, 40, 60, 100 viewers, you're down to WebEx, GoToMeeting, Zoom, I think is about it. Or
did any of you
Maybe
go
Microsoft Teams.
to, did any of you go to Punctuation Con?
Punctuation con?
That was Alison Scott's thing.
no,
It was, I'm not going to criticize Alison Scott, but it was a bit of a hodgepodge, like a mixture of, there were some things on Zoom, some things on Discord, and the talks were all streamed to YouTube, which is a thing that I don't agree with doing because lack of security. But anyway, I gave a talk there and StreamYard seemed good. I'm not sure if it was better than Zoom. We've streamed, I run events every month that we just do in Zoom and stream to YouTube. And that's a good way of doing a like one-to-many kind of thing, or a few to many from different locations. StreamYard has the advantage that you can juggle around things on the screen a lot better. So you can choose, like if someone's sharing their screen, how much of the screen that takes up, where you put the presenter. You can have multiple people talking and a shared screen, and yeah, you can just jiggle it around a lot more than Zoom. But other than that, yeah, Zoom seems fine.
that was Streamlabs.
StreamYard.
Okay, I don't know that one.
Yeah, no, that was the only time I've ever used it.
I think I've heard of it, and that's it.
It was very easy from a speaker point of view. They just gave me a link. It's just in the browser, and you just go to the link and it's there. And you've got people who are just backstage people who can talk to you in the chat and like manage the arrangement and the streaming and everything.
Would you
But
drop
as a
that in the
speaker,
chat?
it was, yeah.
Sure. That
Link.
and Jay, you mentioned Blue Jeans, and
Yes.
there seem to be a handful of the corporate platforms like Blue Jeans, which are corporately priced.
Yeah.
And yeah, they aim kind of for the, 6 to 8 presenters to, thousands, potentially thousands of viewers. Kathy Overton mentioned StreamYard in something recently. By the way, I've been looking at actual streaming services because I do not like using UTwitch for members only stuff because as far as I can tell, you just can't do it.
Mm.
Duckcast or Dawcast or however you pronounce it looks like it hasn't what they're billing as an event package now. I'd have to go back into my notes, but it was like it wasn't a monthly subscription as much. It wasn't an annual thing. It wasn't like aimed at the continual streamers. I mean, it says events, and
Stream your event. Here's the price.
yeah. And I'm going to look seriously at that for Winter Blast because it looked like it would let me do the embedded viewing windows, which you can only get to off of the events website and stuff like that. Doesn't have I don't think it had any kind of a chat mechanism next to it, but don't need that.
So I'm on their website and it only has monthly prices that says billed annually. There's an event package, but it says $63 a month billed annually.
He says, can I find the note I was looking at? Because I need to go back and fill in a bunch of this stuff also. It wasn't Vimeo. Looked at them also. See, that's the problem is a lot of the streaming services are geared for corporate continual use.
Mm. Yes,
And for events where price is not an obstacle.
Yeah. The cast has some very interesting blog entries on live streaming stuff.
Yeah, I came across an article about basically doing it yourself using Amazon services. You'd pay for the bandwidth, but it could be like $20 to broadcast to 1,000 people.
I thought I looked at the Amazon live streaming and it was not, there was something that made my teeth itch.
Yeah, a lot of geeky setup to it.
Your problem there will be that yes, Amazon certainly has the bandwidth. Yes, they can live stream for you, but it's on you to do everything to put it into something that Amazon can stream. So, do you have the technical skills?
Yeah, and I haven't come across anybody making like an open source package that'll, take care of that for you.
Yeah, Duckcast also has a little pricing calculator on their website.
Do you have the link to it?
I was just doing that.
Okay.
I would like to ask two questions.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I just want to ask two questions. One, do we have everybody here who, Jay, you thought should be here? And the other one is, are we actually doing what it is that you were hoping we were going to do? And by the way, I'm not saying this isn't valuable. I just want to make sure that we're actually doing the right thing.
It's informal. My idea was to just try kick off the mailing list a bit. If you got resources to put into the list. And we're sort of doing that here with these different services. We'd like some feedback on the first page of the website, how things are being set up now. I'm still stumbling my way to make this a useful platform. My other idea was skipping the meeting in 2 weeks, have the next meeting in about a month, and have some speaker doing a demo. But maybe have him do his talk demo pre-recorded, so everyone could watch it and then have the meeting be questions and answers.
So that next date would be your 27th is the one you're saying skip.
Yeah.
Oh no, and then the 10th. Yeah. You're more likely to get somebody on the 10th than you are between Christmas and New Year, but it depends on where they're coming from.
Yeah, that.
I wouldn't worry too much.
Yeah, I thought it might be useful. The not Zambia. The conferencing software. Here, Austria.
Oh, that's Zambia.
Zambia. Yeah. Maybe if he would
Actually,
do a demo of what it can do and talk about.
Actually, Zambia plus there were two pieces that were being used for PhilCon, I think.
Yeah, Zambia.
Zambia was the background. Okay, I had something to do with Zambia's adoption because PhilCon had been using a package that programming director Lenati was spitting mad about, largely because of devs who couldn't be bothered to fix bugs or add features or such like. Peter wanted to do a dog and pony show about Zambia at PhilCon 2019. I was able to set that up for him. And various people, including Lenati from PhilCon, Lynn from Lunicon, Caitlin and Liz from Heliosphere, folks from Balticon and Discon 3 and Capclave who were already using Zambia were present. Very productive discussion. And the best thing from my point of view is that it got all of these East Coast con programmers in the same room at the same time to meet and talk to each other. But Peter did a good demonstration. You could probably get him to do a live stream equivalent of what he did at PhilCon, just to demonstrate what Zambia is, how it works. The other piece that PhilCon used was they were using Conopus to actually present the program for the attendees. Conopus got a feed from Zambia, and Conopus is set up to take a Zambia feed.
Is that online recorded where he did?
No, but he could reproduce it and it could be recorded.
Right.
And he would,
exactly
who did,
yeah.
I'm going to make a suggestion that sitting through, look, an online recorded meeting that then has Q&A after has both advantages and disadvantages. My personal feeling is I would rather have something that was live, completely live, than
my idea was
fake live with questions.
Yeah, no, my idea is to have the recorded part available a week ahead, so people could view it whenever they want.
Yeah,
I think you're putting the cart. I think you're putting it the wrong way around. You do the live presentation, you record that, you make the recording available after the fact for people who could not be there for the live one.
I understand. Yeah, but I understand, Dennis, what Jay is saying. He wants to give people the opportunity to go through the material at their own pace, and then you have the expert online to be able to answer the questions. That doesn't work for somebody like me, who is geared to watching something if it's live and never quite gets around to it if it's not. So I would turn up at the Q&A without having seen the material.
I was thinking the flipped classroom mode, which probably works okay in a structured classroom situation, but maybe not like this. Okay, so I'll ask him if he'd want to do it live, and so we'd have something recorded, because right now he just has a demo available.
I'm in communication with him for other reasons at the moment. I can drop him a note, give him your email, tell him what you want to do.
Yeah, well,
and he can touch base with you.
Yeah, he just replied to me this morning.
Oh, did he? Good.
Yeah. Okay, that could be useful. Is anybody you want me to chase down to give a talk? Any tools? I'm not wondering how to make this grow and be useful and have the info out there.
I think there are two classes of product that I'm seeing in general through the conventions that I'm attending. One is the direction that fandom has been going, where we sort of cobble something together, and the archetypal platform for that now is some conferencing tool, but probably Zoom plus Discord. And the reason for plus Discord is to create the social aspect for the convention. But those two components, the commercial conferences that I've seen exist using some sort of platform that is a walled garden. Zebang and I went down the track of looking at a lot of walled gardens, and we found universally that they discouraged any form of live audio interaction. So at best, chat, sometimes not even handling that well, and no interaction outside the actual conference room. And the feedback that I've had from a number of people who have run conferences recently, some of which I've attended, is that people are moving away in droves and expressing the opinion that they don't get to mix with their colleagues, which is one of the reasons why people go to a conference or a convention. That's why I'd spend the money. It's the corridor conversations afterwards. Now, that sort of worked at SMOFCon, where there were Zoom rooms, Zoom breakout rooms available afterwards. And Zoom has now allowed that to be managed, self-managed, without a massive hack. So I keep wondering, by the way, if it was our activity with Zoom pushing that back that got it turned into a function. Possibly
We would
not.
like to think so.
Well,
well, you know. But anyway, it doesn't matter. It's there now as a function. I still think that what our audience is looking for is two things. One, the cheap alternative that functions in a highly seamless manner. So something that creates less of a hassle than we went through this morning for whatever reason. Some of that is just managing it. The other one is the social component, making sure there is a defined social component. Now, the trick is nobody's really integrated that properly, and Discord, much as I love it, I really fell in love with Discord over the Worldcon period, because when everybody's playing the game, you can duck in and out of Discord and have very quick conversations. You can have text conversations. You can have audio conversations to the extent that it'll let you. It was very, very effective, but it is a pain to work with. And we almost killed ourselves bringing it into a simple sign-on platform.
I'm going through discussions on that elsewhere, and one of the people that I'm talking to despises Discord, but is joined at the hip to Slack, which has its own particular set of annoyances. And the fundamental problem that you run into is, in terms of reducing friction, one way or the other, there is going to be a learning curve. People already have some familiarity with Zoom, so that's not a problem. But any social thing, they're going to have to learn how to use a whole new program. And a lot of people are simply going to be resistant to that.
okay.
The impression the impression that I get from what I've seen so far is, you start with programming. If you have compelling programming, your attendees will be happy because it's programming that they're coming to see. And you can provide at least some of the social interaction through things like Zoom breakout rooms. So while Discord is going to be part of what I'm involved in, I'm not going to shed too many tears if people say, no, can't do it. I can't expect them to.
Has everyone here tried WonderMe?
Looked at it, and also Gather.io. They are both fascinating products where the whole notion is trying to recreate the in-person event feel, where you have, whether or not you can interact with somebody or even be aware that they exist, depends upon your physical proximity to them.
Well, I think it was Ben Dobbins that said, this summer that Zoom is, or sorry, that Discord is terrible, but it's the best of the bad solutions. And
It's the least worst.
yeah, it's the least worst. That was it. And and I actually looked at, there's a couple of alternatives to this web pages that list like 10 different alternatives to Slack Discord. And some of them look somewhat compelling. We did not have the chance to play with it, but any of these, if it's its own walled garden, if it doesn't integrate with the world, for instance, for doing sign-ons, if it appears complex to the user, Discord appears complex to most users. Whether or not,
you know what,
but finding something that will give enough of the textual chat stuff and enough of the organization without larding on 1,500 other things.
In terms of integration, my single biggest item on my wish list for Discord is the ability to jump directly from somewhere else into a predefined Discord channel.
yeah, and Discord doesn't do that.
Yeah, I believe they've said we're not going to do that.
More fool them.
Well, apparently, actually, if you're using, I'm told, I've not tried this, I'm told that if your browser is already signed into Discord, then with a URL, you can jump into that if you are using Discord in a browser, but not the Discord app.
So you can't do it when you're running Discord as a standalone client. You can only do it when you're running it in the browser.
Right, and only if you're already signed in, and it's not a good solution.
But by the way, you see, that's not necessarily a bad paradigm, because one of the things about running Discord in a browser is that you can run multiple instances, and that has its own advantages. So if you're in a browser in Discord, whether you're running the client or not, you have certain things that can be enabled. Look, I realized two things from this, because I was just thinking, hang on a minute, I've been through this discussion before. There's a document that I wrote that Zebang and I have been through immensely, because it became both the architectural underpinning and the reference against which we kept checking, are we on the right track? Are we on the right track? And from the time I wrote it until we finished Con Zealand, and it was a technical document, nothing major needed to be changed. So, it was like right enough. Jay, you won't have seen that document. I need to get you a copy of that document. One of the underlying realizations that I came to in sort of March was this had to be treated the same way as a car, and actually like a rental car. And the fact is, for all the discussion of, that's all too hard, I can't learn that, it's a new paradigm. When you turn up, you get off the plane and you go to the rental car desk and you say, I want to rent a car. Nobody says, this is a different car to the one I've ever driven. It's going to be too hard. I need, pick a brand. I need the Lex Ford, blah, blah, blah. People don't do that. And we've educated people with a common enough interface that they will, at worst, wash their windows at people instead of turning on the indicator.
They will
I have that experience.
Be able to get in and drive the car.
But it's even more than that, Dennis. The expectation is that you will get in and drive the car. It's not just you are able, even if you are not, the expectation is that is the paradigm. And the ultimate test for anything that we do for a conference, for any tool that we use, is one, can we reasonably set the expectation that somebody should be able to do this? And it's not us setting the expectation, it's us getting them to set, as the audience, to set their own expectation, because that becomes 90% of the breakdown of the barriers.
A lot of that, I think, is going to depend upon other things. There are lots of people that I know whose first question will be, Mommy, what's a Discord? And the answer should not be ask your father, and will shy away from the learning curve of learning it unless you give them a compelling enough reason. Well, if you do actually learn the basics on this, this is what the benefits will be for you. Give them a
I would
reason to
actually-
want to.
Well, okay, let me give you the reason, the best possible reason to want to. And we've seen this as we've gone through the Facebook era, that fear of missing out becomes enormously compelling. Fear of missing out will lead you to jump into things when technical ability would say, ooh, be dragons, stay away. So in fact, the best driver I have seen is to play on the human fear of exposing yourself as an idiot. That you are more of an idiot by not engaging than you are an idiot by engaging and getting it wrong. And that even works with technologists who are absolutely petrified of making a mistake. I know, I sort of feel like I should throw this across to Rachel, who hasn't said very much in the last little bit.
Well, I think because one thing we had zero complaints about with our convention was social interaction. And I think one of the reasons was that it kind of was a walled garden, and you go in and you never have to register for anything else. There's no other software. The chat is there in your browser right next to the session you're in. You click on this button and yes, it opens Zoom, which is a different thing, but it doesn't make you log in. And I think that's why people felt like there was less of a barrier, and yeah, we had zero complaints. So I am very much in favor of having, for text chat purposes, which is all people are going to be doing during programming, having it embedded on the website. I personally am not a huge Discord fan. I probably could learn it a bit better, but I've come from Slack world, and I think people just, there is just, if you put any perceived barriers in place, there are enough people who will just go, ugh, and then you're not going to get the engagement.
So a lot of just playing the KISS principle in here of if it's all on one, web page, or at least if it looks like it's all on one web page, if they can interact with it that way, instead of having to run 5 different apps and 5 different web pages to get to different parts of things. Most people understand web browsers. The other one being that convincing people that, first off, your experience may vary, and if all you've got is a phone that's about this size, your experience is not going to be very good unless you just want to watch one thing, and that's it. Yeah. Whereas if you've got a dual 4K monitors and with a easy chair, you may do a lot better.
The Attendify that the Mazda who used, that has a good chat discussion for each, all on one page.
And I think people really liked, I mean, obviously I'm not advertising Excel events. I think we'll might talk about that. But people did really like that there's a separate chat for every session. And so if they were watching a talk 2 weeks after the con happened, they could go back and read through all the chat. And that was just a very simple, I think it's just JavaScript and PHP. Anyone could code that.
Actually, that's a really good point. Like if we were making a list of all the things that are important about best of breed, YouTube's ability to go back and see in real time the chat that went with whatever the video was is exemplary behavior.
Yeah. The thing that's really annoying though is you can't make any changes to the video or you lose that, which is annoying. If you just want to trim the beginning and end, you can't. So the thing that I was working on a few weeks ago was I've now built the entire convention on our website as an archived version, just as a way of testing out, could we make our own virtual events platform? And it's just done with a WordPress website, just using custom post types for sessions, exhibitors, speakers, and everything. And it's just an embedded video. And the bit that I haven't done yet, which is why I've been listening, because I've been wanting to figure out if anyone's come up with a way of doing this, is how to do the text chat during sessions. I could write it in PHP, but obviously you need a much stronger server than I currently have to handle a live talk by Neil Gaiman with a chat going crazy. And the videos, I'm just using Vimeo. The thing I really like about that is that it doesn't have to be Vimeo. Vimeo is just for the privacy that you can paywall it. That it doesn't matter what you're using on the back end. So during our convention, we had a mixture of pre-recorded things, Zoom things. You can also use OBS or whatever else you want to use. And to the attendee, it's invisible. It's just a video embedded on a web page, and they all look the same. So that gives you a lot more flexibility, and the least tech savvy person in the world can handle loading a web page, and it's just there.
That brings an interesting point of how persistent, and I'm throwing ideas at a wall here, virtual wall. If you're putting all your putting your stuff on web pages, and you have a chat on the web page, if you use an external chat engine, then one is you have the option of making it persistent off that page so it can be viewed later, and two is you have the option of just also making that chat appear on other pages and not just the one that's got the video it goes with next to it. And so that brings then the further option of, when an event, session starts and you get the video and you get the chat next to it and you can do things with it, and then the video ends. And at this point, somebody has configured another page to show that chat window. So even when the event page goes dark,
well, you can keep it on the same page, because if the video auto archives, and it's just the same link, then it's now just becomes an embedded on-demand video, and the chat's still there. So the options I've been looking at, they fall into two categories. There's lots of persistent chat plugins for WordPress websites, and I could write one myself in about 10 minutes. The problem with that is you need a really, really hardcore server to handle that. There are also hosted chat plugins, which take away the server issue, but are horrendously expensive. It gets into the hundreds of dollars a month, which presumably you could just pay for 1 month while your event's going, and then a couple of $100 is fine, but you wouldn't want to be paying for that long term. The advantage of doing it that way is that it's integrated with your user base on your website. You can do it the really simple way, which is you just embed the Vimeo live chat on the website. They have code snippet to do that, but then you have to have a Vimeo account, and it's just not as integrated. So having something that uses your integrated user base just looks better. People can choose their avatar and their screen name and whatever else. I just haven't figured out yet. The options seem to be moving to a really expensive web host or paying for a hosted chat server.
This is where you get back to the costing models of, a lot of people expect stuff online to be free, and they're often mistaken. But if if it might cost $50 to attend a weekend in person, is $25 too much to ask to do it online? I mean, I don't think so, but I know people will argue with it. And it's like, okay, well, if I've got 100 people coming in, 100 attendees at $2,500, you can buy a reasonable amount of technology for a month or two for $2,500. If you're trying to keep persistence, that's a different, that's a different cost model. But as I was, writing to somebody, this morning maybe, I keep talking about the difference between cheap and frugal. Is we are dialed into, many organizations are dialed into being cheap because it looks like they're being frugal, and they will, they will spend $200 to rent a truck and 10 or 12 person hours to move a bunch of stuff, where they could hire somebody for $400 to do it all in an hour.
I went around that at previous SF cons where the whole question of logistics came up, and I said, look, we are already renting a truck. Why do we not also rent a driver and crew and save ourselves the problem of trying to come up with the folks to do it ourselves? That didn't fly.
Yeah, that was exactly, it's like, oh, we've got people we can throw at this, but you don't have people necessarily you can throw at it. And
Or throw under the bus, as the case may be.
yeah, we're thrown under the bus. And when we're at a convention center, people grumble about paying for the required guards or badge checkers or sales staff, but they do it because it's contractually required. I mean, I've been grumbling about some of those other things, but online, it's like, if we had skilled people to build and operate a streaming server in the cloud instead of paying Ustream to do it, or Vimeo or whatever, great. But the skilled people we have aren't willing to do that. So, we could spend the money, we could spend the money on raw hardware and burn out a handful of skilled people, or we can just buy the service, which will cost more than the hardware, and have it work, and have somebody to gripe at when it doesn't work.
Yes. Who do you call when it breaks is always a good question.
Yeah, one thing that I've started doing is whenever we do free events, I now make a point of saying it's not free, it's free to attend because we're paying for it. There is no such thing as a free event. Because people, especially, it's less so now, but early on in lockdown, we did get some grumbling about why isn't your convention free? Everyone else is doing all their online things for free. And we were like, yeah, you're talking about like San Diego Comic-Con. They have funds, we don't. And people aren't necessarily aware that all of these things do cost money. Even the thing I did last night was just a 200 person Zoom call, but 200 people on Zoom is already $60. Then you need the premium version of Kahoot because we did a quiz, and it's not huge amounts of money, but it's not free. So someone's paying
Heads up.
for that. And this was just us because we wanted to do a nice thing. But making people aware that things do cost money, I think helps. And we have
There are costs involved, and hey, who's paying for it?
So we were very careful to say with our convention, because we were using Excel events, which is a per person cost, to make it clear that it's not a case of we clear all our costs and then we could let people in for free. Like every single person who comes is costing us money. That's why it's not free.
Interesting that a handful of my local DJs are doing weekly, sometimes bi-weekly streams of different stuff. And apparently Twitch has a mechanism, maybe they're using something else, that to put out a tip jar. And one of them explicitly says, I will donate half of my tips to this particular organization. And sometimes the organization is the unemployed bartenders at this bar. And then she publishes, here's how much, I streamed for 4 hours. $100 in tips came in. I'm keeping 50, and the other 50 is going to these people. So it builds the appearance of value. And I'm a big proponent of nominal cost for anything, because free things have no value. Whereas,
although weirdly, we've had outpourings of people today saying thank you for running this free party last night. Not one person said thank you to us for like donating hundreds of hours of our time to running a convention, which they paid for because they saw that as a commercial transaction, whereas they know they came to a free thing last night.
So what Balticon did at the end of the virtual Balticon, which was, back in May, so it was very early on in the virtual convention season, is they use Zoom webinars for all of their presentations. And as I put it, when you left the webinar, you went out through the gift shop. The page, when the webinar ended, the page you got was the Baltimore Science Fiction Society. Wouldn't you like to thank us for doing this? And they took in low 5 figures of donations that way. I mean, it's not as much money as they would have made on the live convention, but that was, a lot of it was just we're going to keep shaking you down for this. And yeah,
was it enough to stop them going out the door backwards? No, serious question. Was it enough? Was it enough to defray costs?
Yeah. Special case, it very much defrayed the cost of the event, but Balticon is also the main fundraiser for the society that they use to pay their bills and their rent. So
Bisphus, if I recall, has their own clubhouse.
Yeah, Bisphus has their own clubhouse, and I believe the mortgage is held by a fan. But
so Rachel, one of the things that Balticon did, and that was back in May, I think.
Yeah.
Balticon ran a convention, but they threw the doors open because they had no mechanism that allowed them to lock it down or charge they could use. Worldcon, we were moving towards a lockdown mechanism because we had to. So that was one of the design principles. But Balticon, in the time that they had available, couldn't come up with that mechanism, certainly not the mechanism that we were using. I'm not even sure I'd recommend that. But anyway, they couldn't. So they elected to make it no charge, free. Actually, not no charge. There's no air quotes there. It was no charge. And then they quite sensibly got people to walk through the gift shop on the way out. That solved that problem.
Yeah, that's I forget who said it now at the 15th of November meeting, that they'd run an event on a pay what you like. That's, I think,
a lot of people do that.
That's the model I would like to go to, which is actually why I've been trying to set up my own platform, because if it's entirely fixed cost, it's much easier to do that. You just have to clear one hurdle, and then the more people you have, it doesn't really matter. And it seems like I think most people, if they are able to pay, will.
Some of us are cheap.
Yeah. And obviously, I mentioned in my talk, we had an awful lot of people from third world countries who they're not going to pay amounts of money that make a difference to us. So I would like to do something that would let those people attend, and those of us with the means pay for it.
Aren't we wonderful?
Well, it's supposed to be a fun thing, right? This isn't a corporate event. So
I think I may have mentioned this before. This stop me if I did. That a couple of the large folk festivals I work on.
Stop.
Right.
I just wanted to stop you because I could.
I know where you live.
By the way, there's an example of an interaction that you would do in a real room, which becomes really, really difficult. So part of the socialization process for all of these sessions is to be able to create that vibe. And we've sort of gone a little bit beyond being stuffy in virtualized teleconferencing environments. But if this was a real room, putting aside the people who my wife has railed against, so she has gaffeated, she will not go to conventions anymore because she's sick of people standing up and asking a rambling question of a panel in order to hear the sound of their own voice or make some bizarre point. But what you do get in a real room is somebody will stand up and they'll just, as I just did then, they'll throw in a comment that is funny, and that keeps the room elevated. We don't have those paradigms in most of the tools that we use. It is just not possible to do that because everybody's muted. And consequently, you have a solid boundary between us and them, where them is the unwashed who are paying for this. And I keep thinking, how much money would you have to put into the platform to change that in a way that was economical but created the right environment, and people would be willing to pay for that because they would see it as a differentiator? They would be in a room rather than behind a pane of glass watching television.
Are you saying you want everyone to be able to speak during programming?
Well, it sounds horrible unless you have the social controls that you have in a real room. Now, going back to what Zebang said, we have witnessed any number of times where the result of virtualizing has been a drift into anarchy. People have just said, fuck you, I'm going to do exactly what I want, despite rules that are in place. People can do that organizationally. People can do that in a room during a program item. But if rather than try to, the problems that we need to solve for this to work are all social and behavioral, and we haven't got there. They're not technical. You just said, you could write some PHP that would do blah, 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 blah. Yes, that's like I can't, you can. It's great. I know somebody who can write PHP. The thing is that what we're not getting is beyond the technical enablers, because you can always pay somebody to go and write a piece of code. You could go and buy a better server process. You can change an architecture or start again if you want. But they're all being enabled or disabled, in my view, by the social behaviors that we require people to have when they go into the room. And from a technology point of view, it doesn't matter a crap what we do if the social behaviors are still wrong and feral and don't lead to community.
That's right.
There's
So you
not
have
a
a
lot-
better opinion of people than I do, especially in science fiction convention settings. Like, one of my favorite things about going virtual is that you can shut people up by force.
I think John, I think one of the other issues that you run into and what you want to do is scale.
Absolutely.
If you're talking about somebody suddenly standing up and saying something that's funny, that breaks the room up, that elevates the thing, that works fine in a smaller breakout room, smaller panel item. It does not work in the main ballroom.
Actually,
the number of people that are involved is going to be a factor.
Yeah, but here's the thing, Dennis. The difference between a small meeting room and a main ballroom, or between an intimate theater that has 50 people in it and no proscenium, and the Budokan with 7,000 people in the audience, is not actually whether or not somebody can jump up and yell, because they can. Nothing about the environment changes that. It's because the social behavior changes based on what you're seeing. It is not cool to buy a ticket, go to the theater, and then sit in the middle of the room and talk all night.
People do.
It's still not cool. Yeah, but it's not cool. And we have the expectation that is the case. I wonder if we are, we're putting a rod from our back by trying to solve with technology a problem that should actually be solved with social engineering. Even though we can't guarantee the outcome, you can't guarantee that somebody will not stand up in the middle of Hamlet and go, "I'm going to the toilet," very loudly. But you could, but people don't. By and large, people do not, because there are social sanctions against that, and they're understood. Whereas we're not enforcing the same social sanctions or building in the same social sanctions with virtualized meetings.
One of the problems that I have been trying to deal with for years is precisely whenever you have people together in a group, there will be a culture, there will be a society, there will be expectations as to what the rules are, what sort of behavior is acceptable, what sort of behavior is not acceptable. There will be internal and external controls. There will be technical props to enforce normative behavior. There's a limit, I think, to what you can do in terms of using, in terms of technology, applying the technical props. The problem is, how do you inculcate people into your culture?
Yeah, well, there's a $10 million question there, Dennis, and you're absolutely right. But that we're saying we are in fact in violent agreement. What we haven't got is the knob that, well, we might end up with a room full of knobs. What we don't have is the knob that we can turn that gets everybody into that social environment. And that's the problem that I would like to solve. The technical problems can always be solved by bolting on something else, but the social problems cannot.
The problem that I see is that the social problems are not something where you can flick this magic switch. Inculcating people into a culture takes time. It doesn't happen rapidly.
I agree. Now, I'm going to do something that is socially unacceptable. You notice I've been jumping on and off the screen. This is a bit like the person who is crocheting while watching TV, or indeed in a meeting room. You can't do that on a conference call, but I'm going to take the audio with me, and because I'm in the middle of a project.
Oh.
Now, are you finding it socially unacceptable when I suddenly disappear off screen and come back? I don't
No,
know
because
that.
you warned us you're leaving.
And
Okay.
I think it's great. I mean, this is an advantage of the platform.
Sure.
You know,
And I can walk to the other end of the house and still keep talking. By the way, I can walk to the other end of the house and monopolize the conversation. But the thing is, you do have a tool that will shut me up. And
John, you can walk out in the
use it.
garden and be heard.
I could walk out the garden, and I'm 12,000 kilometers away. But I am now on the end of the limit. I'm going to drop out and ramp it.
And now you're breaking up. Cool, done. It is an interesting thing, though, about this, the socializing and getting the attendees who are used to, sitting in a room and being able to chat with their neighbor about whatever, and presentations going on, and maybe they can, jump up and shout horseshit at the presenter if they feel like it, and people may then hustle them out, but they've done their thing, and partly convincing people that the same behavior that you would have in person, you should start with that online. Shouting someone down is never appropriate. Posting nasty stuff in the chat window is quite similar. If you the whole concept of decorum, and some people unfortunately don't know what that word means.
So I just posted nasty stuff in the chat window.
Yeah.
You're just determined to be disruptive. Yeah, I think the problem you have, though, is that if you're doing a 1,000, 10,000 person, whatever convention, you only need 5 people to be assholes, and that completely dominates the convention. I mean, every single thing we've done, there's been a minority of people who just cannot handle technology at all, and cannot figure out that when we say you need to upgrade to Zoom version 5.3 for breakout rooms to work, that means that they need to upgrade Zoom to version 5.3 for breakout rooms to work. And we spend the entire event on tech support, talking people through the process that we'd already outlined to them in email. And that is a very, very tiny fraction of the people, but it's enough that it takes up all your time. But I actually think with virtual things, you have something you don't get at physical events, which is the text chat. And there's never been a physical convention I've been to where during a presentation, I've been having a conversation with the entire audience. But we found with our convention that by the time each guest of honor talk was done, everyone else in the audience had their own in-jokes and things that we knew nothing about because we weren't following the chat, because they'd been having a whole separate parallel conversation. And that's actually quite good. And people said it made them feel like they were part of something and not just passively watching a video.
That brings a very interesting problem that, and I have seen this too many times, you probably have too, of, presenters should not be expected to follow the chat, should not be expected to follow all the chat going on, because it can be super fast sometimes. But there needs to be a way to get messages to presenters that they will actually see and pay attention to. And
yeah, that's why you have a separate window for Q&A.
Yeah, if you have the option of doing that, one window, well, possibly even, okay, if you've got a Q&A, which is just that. And
that's what we had. So the chat window is tabbed, and at the top there were tabs for the full chat, which is all the audience, the Q&A, which you can, once you've answered a question, it's dismissed, so you can keep that clean, and polls. I think that was it.
Was that part of that platform you were using?
Yeah.
Okay.
But that's a thing that I'm going to build into my one as well, because it's very useful. The only thing we were looking at as like the people interviewing the speakers
Yeah.
was the Q&A. There's no way you can follow the chat.
You know, Zoom webinar gives you the same thing, but meeting doesn't.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, where the, you know, is it here's a divergence of topic of, is it rational to expect presenters to have more, I don't want to say more comfort with technology, but more technology generally than viewers are? And from what I mean is not just a camera and a microphone and a display, but being able to have, you know, two or three windows open of the Q&A chat or the Q&A, and then another one of stage directions. You know, another one of the moderators saying, "Hey, time," things like that.
Presenters might have the capability of dealing with that. The question is whether they should have to. For
Well, I think
example,
you
when you're
normally
talking
have
about keeping up,
convention staff doing that.
when you're keeping up with chat, for example, as a presenter, well, you can present or you can keep up with chat. Take your pick.
Well, it's not keeping up with chat. It's how do you wave the flag at the presenter that says you have 5 minutes and have them notice it?
I mean, how do you do that at a physical convention? In fact, I've session chaired at many a professional academic conference where I couldn't get the speaker's attention. Yeah,
Well,
that's hard.
Although that one you can walk up to the front of the room and smack them with a little bat too.
Yeah, I mean, and it's very hard if you're presenting, certainly on Zoom, if you're sharing a screen, it's very difficult then to see the chat. So that is a problem.
Well, if we take and I'm using the words carefully here, if we take the chat out of the picture because it tends to accumulate all kinds of random stuff in it, you know, as we already have, and assume that presenters would not be paying attention to it at all.
Right, so it depends what technology you're using. The way we did it with our event was the presenters were just in Zoom meeting and we were streaming from that to the platform. So there are presenters and whatever convention staff, so obviously in this case it was just two of us, are just on Zoom, and then the Zoom chat doesn't have any of that garbage in it. And so some of the talks that were not guests of honor, where we had people in Zoom, I was just keeping an eye on the Q&A on the platform and copy pasting it into the Zoom chat so that they didn't have to look at two windows. Yeah, I don't think I would necessarily want presenters to have to keep an eye on anything themselves. But if the only people who are in Zoom are just your presenters and maybe a convention staff member, then that's a lot easier.
Yeah, if you're just using Zoom as your stage, and then have somebody who can monitor the offstage chat, copy the questions over. That's,
and actually I do a monthly astronomy event where we have the speakers are in Zoom and we're just streaming to YouTube, and there we just have a member of staff assigned to watch the YouTube chat and copy paste any questions into the Zoom chat so that the host can then ask them live of the speakers, and that seems to work quite well.
Yeah, I did that for the Mars convention, where YouTube, the on page, and Zoom was all monitored by the staff.
StreamYard was the same as well. There was just one person who was on the StreamYard with me, copying questions from both the Discord and the YouTube, because that was all disconnected, and then popping them in the chat so that I could see them.
Changing subject a bit, could everybody go to the homepage of Virtual ConCon and just want feedback if it makes sense, if there's things I should add to it?
Hold on. Yes, we have that up there.
why is it talking to Reddit static? I go there and it wants to enable scripting for redditstatic.com.
That's, could you do a screen grab or?
I
that's-
use no script to filter scripting.
Oh,
And-
I got so many plugins. I don't know what
Okay,
is going.
Use uBlock.
I'll leave it blocked. You know, everything is blocked until I try to come up. You know, until something doesn't work right, and then I'll unblock one of them.
My favorite part of the homepage is stupid theme insists on having something in the copyright section.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. There's a piece of software I use, and I can't remember which one it is, that the installer insists on having like a donation page or something like that page, and the author sticks in something like, you know, this is free software and I don't have this, so here's a picture of an animal.
Yes.
In that vein, have you guys seen the Image Alchemy software license? It was a image processing program from the 90s. And basically, if you violate copyright, a ring demon will come and take you away.
Okay,
You'll be eaten by a grue.
seems fair. Just giving it a skim. Just giving it a skim, it seems a bit jargon filled. Just, I mean, you know, asynchronous and synchronous communications. I know what you mean. Probably everybody, you know, everybody on this call knows what you mean, but I would have to put more thought into it otherwise.
Okay. I have a topic on the mailing list or start one. The thing is, as we're gathering tools, do you think we're useful to basically have a major directory of tools? And I don't want to reinvent the wheel, but I'm also not sure if there's any other sites that's like a neutral listing of things.
I just discovered I was muted. Sorry, Jay, I was asking the question, which homepage should I be on? What is the URL of the homepage where I should be?
virtualconcon.cu.
Hang on. Virtualconcon.cu.
CYOU.
Oh, CYOU. Yeah. Okay. I was actually on the site, but I was at another level. Okay. What is the purpose of this thing? Yep.
Thing is the purpose.
Your clock has got louder, Zebang.
Everyone got quiet. I could go mute the clock, but
No, it's all right. It's all right. Jay, look, I'll say the words that are on here are good and fine words. They all say the right thing. It's not a marketing page. So if you want to grab attention, this will require I think, a bit of rework so that salient points leap out and grab people, and every statement on a homepage, not true further down in the hierarchy, but every statement on a homepage needs to just scream what's in it for me, because you're trying to get people's attention and get them to click through. So I have no problem with the information at all. I think we, I could just look at that and go, what would make me read this? For example, Tan Staffel. So we've discussed that already. And, Rachel made the very salient points. Tan Staffel, that where that line is, needs to lead very quickly into a discussion of, so you don't want to lose your shirt. You want to run this, but you don't want to lose your shirt.
Mm-hmm.
Click here. Here is our repository of things that will help you achieve the greater aim, but will ensure that your participants don't leave you high and dry.
One of my assumptions based on this, there's a guy in the US named Jerry Della Femina, who was a noted advertising copywriter. And he talked about his first job as a junior copywriter in an agency. And he had a copy chief with a ruler with 1 inch marked at the top. And when you submitted your copy in hardcover, he put the ruler down, and if nothing reached out and grabbed him in that 1 inch, you got sent back for a rewrite. That's kind of what you're looking for here.
Okay, so you guys know what this is about. What would have grabbed you if, with an initial email or come in here?
I think the thing that would pull me in is if there was an easy, this is what information you need to run your virtual event. Like, I don't know if this still exists, but certainly when I was running my first conventions like 15 years ago, I went to a wiki that was, it was probably SMOFCon people, I don't know, that was, these are all the pitfalls people fall into running conventions. We need that for virtual cons. So would it be easy to add a wiki to the site? Something like that? Could even just be blog pages that we go back and edit.
Well, that's sort of what the mailing list is.
The problem with the mailing list is you have to root through an awful lot of conversation before you get, here is the perceived wisdom at this point.
Right, and that's, see, yeah, you have to root through, and that was my idea of being able to quote it and pull out the info from the list to make web pages. Problem is gathering the information and having people participate.
Yeah, two bits there is maybe three. For pulling stuff in from the from list posts onto web page posts, I would definitely approach it as, I like what this says. I would like to put it up. How do you feel about rewriting it so that it's in a, not just a mailing list post, but has, as a standalone thing, and let the original author do that, or at least have a shot at it first.
Yeah. Did you see the page for the mailing list on the web page? If I'm trying to address that, the mechanism of how I pull info from the post. If you could just go to.
Well, before I lose that, I lose my other thought, is this it kind of going from what Rachel was just saying, that a resource for people, they know they want to do a virtual convention. There's no sales necessary on that. They're looking for, I won't say hard information, but they're looking for information about what they need to do and how to approach things, not why this is a good thing. Not why a virtual convention is a good thing. Here are, we've talked about technology, but we've also talked about human behavior. In the past, we've talked about policy things that need to be addressed. You know, finances, we've already got a link to that on there. They've already, you know, sizes, you know, what might work for this and not work for that. But nothing, you know, if they're reading it at all, they're not going to be saying, should I do this virtually or not? If that, they've already made that, or they've already expressed that interest just by coming to it.
So the repository of best practice, and this is the forum where best practice is developed or aggregated.
One thing that might be really useful is to think about when we first decided we were going to run our events virtually, what were we Googling? Because I found a complete lack of information. I mean, obviously this was like April. There's a bit more out there now, but it's still very corporate geared. There's not a lot for
that's why I'm doing this.
Yeah, exactly. But if we think about what questions was it that we were asking that we've figured out the hard way, those are going to be the things that other people are going to be Googling that would hopefully bring them to the site if we aggregated that information helpfully.
And okay, has everybody seen, can you click on the mailing list page?
I think I'm now on the mailing list. Sorry, I hadn't done that before.
Yeah, put into chat.
I'm going looking for it. I'm not logged in. Should I be able to see it?
Yeah.
There it is. Okay. It was the link was a little hard to find, but I got it. Okay.
Okay. So is the idea of saying posting on the list, you're given permission to be quoted, and the way it's being quoted on this page is, I think that'll work for people?
Well, two parts there is assuming that there's a list archive, which there should be.
Yeah, which is the first link right there.
Then
Oops, sorry.
Simply saying you approach it as a not posted, it is quoted as there's an archive of this list and it is publicly available. And I don't have good words for that at the moment, but it's when you accept, it becomes to me more problematic when you excerpt something out of a mailing list posting and put it somewhere else. But if it's just in the list archive, it's just an archive post.
Right, but say there's a wrong stream and somebody mentions, hey, I liked this tool for this reason, but it's buried within a wrong conversation. So to point somebody to that post from a web page, I think I'd have to excerpt something.
You may have to excerpt a snippet.
Right.
Mays addresses it in this post.
Right. So
it's
the example I have on the page, is that good or too long?
This is okay to me. The permissions thing is something that I would have to put some real more thought into. That say if there's a public list archive, that's the first place to approach as saying this list is archived. It is available to the public. It is being searched by Google. If you don't like it, don't post.
Okay.
When you get from there to, if you're simply saying, and I am not a lawyer, nor am I a solicitor. If you get from to the next step being, if there's another page that is pointing to all the posts by Mays, or Mays has a strong opinion about this tool and it's at this post, that is nothing. It just follows from the list. It's when you take it's if somebody takes 5 paragraphs out of Mays's list posting and puts it somewhere else,
right,
out of context.
Okay.
that's where I have trouble with that kind of action.
I
Okay.
think you absolutely want a wiki, but you need to put some thought into which wiki software you're using, because what you ultimately want to do is get the same people who are posting to the mailing list to contribute to the wiki.
Yeah.
And if they have written something in the mailing list that should be on the wiki, well, they can put it there.
So maybe a wiki is like you're using a hammer to crack a nut. Maybe all it actually needs are blog posts. And if someone says something useful on the mailing list, you just assign that person editor permission on that post and they can add information. Would that be easier?
How do you search the blog post?
I think WordPress has search functions, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The
then you
question
can
is how to make
add
it easy to
categories.
find the information that
Yeah.
you want.
Yeah.
Like on the mailing list, there's now a bunch of hashtags for filtering, and the groups, seem to work nicely.
Hashtags are fine if you can get people to use them, and if you establish a standard set. Oh, apply this hashtag to what I'm talking about.
Have you seen the groups IO? The mechanism. It's not free-form hashtags. It's from a drop-down list.
So you're predefining the hashtags and you can just drop them down from the list.
Exactly.
Well, that makes it easier for people to apply them.
Yeah. And then you could do the drop-down list as a filter.
Okay.
I'm going to make myself really unpopular here and say, I wonder if you're trying to fix the wrong problem. Actually, I'm not going to say that. I think you're trying to fix the wrong problem.
Okay.
So, example, we have a wiki on the Con Zealand website. The wiki is there. The wiki never got any attention. The real problem isn't the tool, because there are any number of different tools you can use. The real problem is getting people to contribute. And particularly in a volunteer environment, where people are time poor and giving their time as they see fit, the real challenge is working out what gets people to post the information that you want. People will go for hours in rants on Facebook or in blogs or something else, partly driven by fear of missing out. I've got to put this in or it will be too late. When you say, oh, grab that thought, it'd be really good in the wiki for everybody to follow on. Yeah, I'll get to it. So, and it doesn't, substitute wiki for half empty garbage bin, filing cabinet, like whatever the tool is. That's not really the problem. It's the human nature piece that you want to that needs to be resolved.
Yeah, well,
I don't know if any,
the problem is the write-only document.
Yeah. Which is why I'm in fact the document that I will send you guys. Okay, where should I put this document? Because I've got it here
on the mailing list.
Put it somewhere where you can give us a URL and we can grab it.
Yeah.
With a great deal of pain, with a massive amount of pain, because it's a Google Doc. The Con Zealand website will let me do that, but it's a massive amount of pain.
Why?
Actually, one of the problems that Con Zealand had is they had two parallel systems. They had a G Suite with a lot of whole thing of documents there, and then they had the wiki, which most people didn't go to because they were looking in the G Suite documents for their stuff.
Yeah, but look, I will say the G Suite, once I got into it, G Suite was just amazing for being able to shift documents around and collaborate, particularly collaborating, 2 or 3 people working on the one document at the one time. But nothing about G Suite solved 2 problems. One, I had to go back and find this is core document. It was absolutely, here I am running a division, and this was a core document, and I had to go back and work out where it was. I did find it.
John, I'm on the Con Zealand site now. Where is it?
Oh no, I know where it is. Sorry, Dennis. You want to know where it is? It's in Project Holodeck, which is inside the technology division group.
Let's see.
But that doesn't help Rachel and it doesn't help Jay. So the question is, do I have, I'm just about to crimp my last connector here.
Be right back.
Sorry.
You've been crimping connectors and my clock is ticking and
Do you know we've been on this almost 2 hours? I can't believe that because it's been a really good conversation and very quick.
I am actually going to have to call it a night really soon because it's almost 11 o'clock at night, and I'm
So Rachel and Jay, do I have email addresses for you? I must have email addresses for you both. Yes, I will send you both a copy of this document, and you'll promise not to send it to anybody else. This is the document I wrote, and it was top down on what are the attributes of architecting the platform for a virtualized World Science Fiction Convention.
Is this the document that's entitled Project H Design Principles?
Yeah, hang on. It probably is, yes. Project _ H _ design _ yeah, because I like underscores.
So do I.
I have a pathological fear of embedded blanks. years of writing assembler.
I would say it's a sensible.
As soon as they decided the blank was a really good delimiter, that screwed me over. And I absolutely hate that the international format for phone numbers, or certainly the one we've adopted here in this country, has embedded blanks, and it's like unsearchable.
Hey,
Who knew?
try this. That I got some audio files from someone, actually a couple hundred of them, and one of them, just one of them, had a left square bracket in the name.
Yeah.
That tripped over all kinds of stuff.
However, Dennis, I'm going to say be a bit careful here because I've just looked at this. I've got 2 downloads of this document, one of which is 19 KB and the other one is 40 KB, and the smaller one is the later document. So I think I will go through and double check what's going on here, and then I'll email out a copy.
The one that I just downloaded that G Suite converted to Word for me is 19K.
Oh, okay. 19,295 maybe?
Project H Design Principles Draft 2050, hold on, _2330.
Yeah. So that's the 7th of May at 23:30.
Okay.
That's how I do my versioning.
And according to you, that's the current version that we should be looking at.
Well, I would always say it was the current version, but you realize as soon as you put this is the current version in a document, it isn't anymore.
Which brings another short point that I will mention just to throw it out there, that so many people forget that versioning documents, timestamping them is a good thing, not a bad thing. And I just had this and the other great bugaboo is date, time formats, and time zone. And my Pyro convention, it usually happens in Arizona, which is US Mountain Time, but most of the organizers and so on are in California, so US Pacific Time. They're used to doing their seminars in Pacific Time. And I said, are we doing Blast in Mountain or Pacific? And somebody says, well, we do this in Pacific. I say, yeah, but we do the event usually in Arizona in Mountain Time. Do we want that or not? And then they pick, I don't care which it is, pick one and tell everyone.
Zbang will remember the extent to which I picked that as a problem very early and failed to make any headway with most of the North Americans.
And they still, is 12/7/20 in July or in December?
It's clearly in July.
Yeah, which is why 2020-07-12 is.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I think I said in my talk that it doesn't matter how easy you try to make time zones. There are people who just can't get it into their heads. We had people miss our party last night because they were convinced that the US is ahead of the UK in time zones. Like, how can you, it's fair enough not knowing the exact offset, but surely you know whether you're ahead or behind. But no, a lot of people really don't.
They have their head up
Look,
there behind.
Yeah.
To my embarrassment, I got up at 4 o'clock. Actually, I got up at 5 o'clock for a very important standards meeting, sight, motion picture, and television engineers. And I got up for this meeting, and got up just in time for it to finish. And I thought I was better than that, but that's because I'm currently in Queensland, which doesn't do daylight saving as opposed to the rest of the country.
Yeah, daylight savings is the whole thing, especially
Ah.
if you're in a collaboration where the PI is in Arizona. Bloody nightmare, because they just have no concept that daylight saving is a thing, and they won't account for it when they send you your meeting times.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of that. I will make sure I've got the latest version of this document, and it is annotated, but it's just, as Dennis said, it's called design principles because that's what it is. And it says, here are the design principles for the platform. This is what it should do. There is an example of the implementation and a user story that says, what's this trying to address? I was concerned that we should come up with a platform which did all the things that we've loosely talked about today. So if you're sitting in a room halfway back, you can sit next to somebody. You can turn to that person and go, that guy up the front is talking complete bullshit. And you could even have a private conversation about that, provided you didn't do it so loudly that it annoyed other people. All of those behaviors, though those and many more, are behaviors that need to be socially accommodated for people to feel like they're in an equivalent situation. And most of the platforms that we deal with don't even try to come close to that. Notwithstanding the fact that you could have a private chat, many platforms don't allow you to chat with anybody other than the presenters, and at a level of granularity that beggars discussion. So, if I wanted to go and send a private note to you, Rachel, and say, I think Zbang is being a dick, I should be able to do that. But of course, two things. One, most platforms don't let you do that. And the ones that do, you always have this niggling fear that you've sent it to everybody by mistake. And that would be a social disaster.
That's the worst, because direct messages in Zoom are mixed in with the chat, which if it's moving very fast, you won't see it. If someone sends you a private message, you're like, where it currently says everyone down here automatically changes to be a direct message to that one person. So something you intend to send to everyone then just goes as a direct message to one person, and you think, why is everyone ignoring my very important message?
Exactly.
Yeah, Zoom is the worst.
And in fact, something I've realized now about this embedded thing, I can't save the chat. So I cannot see, hang on a second. Nope.
You can if
on
you're in
Zoom
the app.
If you're in the client, yes, but I can't get now from where I am to the client with all the past chat. So the only people who can get the chat are the people who who've been participating in it. So, oops. Oh, I see. That's the mute button. That's why I screwed myself before. I clicked on a mute button thinking I was clicking more. What? Zbang, could you grab the chat and then send the file to me, please? Because it's got lots of it.
It's in the chat.
What?
And
The chat is. The chat is in.
The chat is in the
Yeah.
chat.
Yeah, except that
text file in the chat.
Yes, I did grab it.
I can no longer get to the chat. Oh, hang on. There we go. Disastrous comment.
I will drop.
Oh.
I will drop the chat up to this point in an email message.
Yeah, but I have now oh no, it's there. First line I've got in the chat is streamyard.com from Rachel.
Is
that correct? Man,
Yeah.
this is.
And I could post the chat on the webpage for this meeting.
Now, actually, I can go and highlight it and do a copy maybe.
Yeah, I just did a select all and.
Yeah, if I do a select all, it picks up the entire.
Oh.
Everything.
That's an interesting user feature of doing the embedded versus Zoom app is what you select and how.
Embedded Zoom really not good. It's like
I do not like
around for people who can't use the client for whatever reason, but it's not the best.
I do not like the embedded Zoom.
No.
Part of that is
okay.
have the client running half the time anyway, so it's nothing extra.
All right, I can see that because I moved away from displaying the chat on my screen and came back to it, I've got stuff in there, but it's clearly not everything because my comment pasted earlier in the chat did not work. So no, embedded Zoom, not a good thing for that.
Mhm.
I will work out. Oh, can I post a file into chat?
Yeah.
You can drag pictures into it. I think you can drag files into it.
Hang on a second.
At
Let's
least in
just
the
try
app
this.
you can.
Yeah, let me just see if
Right.
this will work.
Yeah.
Don't know what that did. It lost my screen and gave me a save as window, which isn't what I want.
Okay, so as a mechanism going forward, this is a document that you'd be happy sharing with the world, correct?
I already shared it internally with Conzeal, and it has some comments in it that maybe I would want to edit out. So because I don't necessarily agree with all of them. One of the things when you open a document for discussion, people can put stuff in comments
Mhm.
that even they might deprecate later on.
Okay,
But you want a robust discussion, so I didn't try and shut that down. I didn't want to censor discussion. Not a good
Okay.
thing.
but without the comments, this would be a good thing to share with other people who.
I think so. I don't know. Dennis
Okay.
and Zbang, what do you think? Is it useful document, not useful document?
I would call an overall architecture document useful. I think for what we're looking at here, I would remove the comments because this would simply give new people a chance to create their own comments.
Yeah.
But it's
Right.
it's the basic document that's being commented upon. That's what we want to see.
All right. Look, I know I have your email addresses. I will send this out to the 5 people who are on this call. That I regard as safe. I'll put do not distribute without permission.
Okay. In the future, then.
If you want me to do a discussion in the future on, architectures and what might or might not be useful, I'm happy to do that. I like being
Please.
generic. I like providing a basis for other people to go and build.
Right. So, would an edited version of this document be good to distribute? Basically, make it as a blog post on the site. Share it.
I think it would be an excellent basis for development of something even more robust.
Great.
I think it is much easier to get volunteers to add to something than to start something
Right.
from scratch. So
Correct.
So
I have a very large number of half-started documents, and I've got an extreme number of mind maps where I captured a lot of stuff and never went further. Some of it went further and turned into real documents, and some of it did not.
right.
Yeah. Some of those mind maps actually sanitized a bit might be very useful to people also.
Okay. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to think workflow. If you get it onto the mailing list, the groups IO, and then I could pull it, make a blog post pointing to that. That might
Yes.
be the easiest way of getting it.
Actually, Jay, any repository that is available to the people in this group. So you've got 3 levels of security. You've got private to the person who is working on something. You've got restricted to people who are in some way anointed, either the whole of this group or a subset of this group. And you've got public, it's out there, you can't do anything anymore. And any document repository that allows you that level of granularity works for me.
Owner, group, and world.
But right now, it's like
Change mod 777.
I do have a fear, by the way, at the moment. I sort of saw a bit of this at SMOFCon, of history being rewritten already. And there are people who were on the platform at SMOFCon, and they weren't me, and they were talking about how we got to the platform. And history is already being rewritten.
By
Well,
those who
particularly
were
if you
not
ask the wrong
present when it
people.
was being made.
Oh no, they were present. They just have a slightly different view of what actually happened. So
Yeah.
there are already people to whom I am not talking as a result of this experience. People with whom I have stayed in their homes, and I am now apparently excommunicated. Friends don't let friends run WorldCons.
Yeah.
Yes, Rachel, you might laugh.
Hey,
You might.
I don't know. There's no reason you would know why I resigned from LongCon, but yes, I know what you mean.
Yes.
Oh, one con
Okay.
was special.
They pissed
It's-
me off
look,
so
it's-
much. I have not been to a Worldcon since.
Yeah, it is sad, but there were people that I was working with, and we were a very tight-knit team. And people with whom I was having 2-hour meetings, multiple meetings every day for 4 or 5 months, and have not actually spoken to since the day the convention started. Not even during the convention. Very, very odd.
Very sad.
Very odd.
For something that's
It
supposed
is.
to be fun, it's
Well, a lot of it goes back to what Zibang pointed out, which is people. You can't stop people going and doing whatever they feel like, and the more it's virtualized, and the weaker your leadership is, the less likely you are to be able to control that. And there's some huge lessons that you could see coming, but which I certainly learned. I was reminded of. So, anyhow.
Okay. Want to wrap things up, and we can have further discussions on the mailing list?
Sounds
Yeah,
good.
Jay, I'm not above having informal discussions. I think it's really important that there should be maybe two core topics. This one's ranged quite a bit from where I thought it was going to be, and it ran for 2 hours, and I wasn't expecting that, because Lorraine just came down to tap me and going, "Is this still going?" It's always a good sign. And I managed to crimp a whole lot of leads while we're doing this. Hang on, here we go. This is my. Oh, here you go. You two can do this. Is phone blocks and a large number of. So I'm installing, as you do in a household, I am installing a new PABX, because every house requires a fully integrated telephone system, and the fully integrated telephone system I've got.
You're running Asterisk?
Private. No. Analog. Private automatic branch exchange, a telephone exchange, essentially.
Okay. Wow.
It's actually a key phone system.
I wasn't aware that anyone in 2020 used telephone. That's new information.
Well, here's the thing, and this is what I'm discovering.
The
like
millennial in the group.
In commercial terms, people still use phone systems. You have phones on desks, fewer, but you do have them. They serve a purpose. Okay. We have essentially six things coming into this house that could be regarded as phone lines, and there are 2 of us, and it's a big house. And yelling from one end of the house to the other is not an option. And when somebody comes to the door, if you're down the other end of the house, calling them on their mobile phone is not an option, and doing something with Wi-Fi is not an option. Actually having a phone where you just pick it up and go to the person who's at the front door, "I'll be there in a minute."
I have one of these, but I have to say the phone app is the least used app on this.
Yeah.
Speaking as someone who has done punch downs in the phone closet to connect physical devices, yes, they're still used. They're out there.
Yeah.
Well, speaking as the flip side is someone who's done quite a lot of punch downs and currently has two wired telephones in the house, one of which the only electronics is the single transistor in the dial pad.
Yeah.
And
anyway, not helpful for Rachel, but technology exists, and sometimes old technologies are actually the good technologies, and we can spend a lot of time trying to find elegant, smart, clever often solutions, and frequently clever solutions are neither elegant nor smart.
However, for moving files around, that works really well.
Yeah. Rachel, you will, a common thread with me is I will keep going back to the question, but what problem are we trying to solve and does this do it?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Understanding the problem we're trying to solve is the first step in any case.
Well,
Yeah.
if the problem you're trying to solve ever involves wanting millennials to come to your convention, then analog phones are not going to do it.
Well, you know, there you go. Eventually millennials will work out something or other.
On that note,
Uh,
I should probably go to bed.
Yeah. On that note,
All
I
right.
need to go grocery shopping.
Dennis, if you just hang on 1 second, I will show you something that will make your hair curl. Oh, no, I can't. Hang on. Can I show you here? Yes.
Okay, now I'm
Okay.
interested.
Good night, Rachel.
Yeah.
All right. Good night.
Yeah, good to see you.
There you go. Dennis, this is
Yes.
actually, hang on a second. You probably recognize this. This is a crone block. I like
Right.
crones. In this part of the world, that's what we use. I discovered over the weekend, because I didn't know this, that Krone, a German company, was absorbed by ADC, an American company, which has then been absorbed by another company. And the brands ADC and Krone have both gone, and ADC seems to have gone as a system. So there's strange circular punch down and the 110 stuff that still exists in North America, but the Krone stuff that's still around. Anyway, and I like Krone, and I have a very large amount of it in both of the households.
And you
for a
have
whole
an
heap of
excuse
reasons.
to use it.
Yeah, well, you know, there was a time when I was doing a radio station and I knew that by the time we did the intercom, we were probably going to run to something like, I think we put in 90 Krone blocks, so 900 pairs of distribution within the radio station. Anyway, here's an interesting thing. This is a standard block. And if you look there, you'll see it starts at 1 and goes up to 10. So, and you start from the bottom and work up. So pair 1, pair 11, pair 21, going up like that. And I started work last night and discovered that, and you need to look closely at this, you will see that the top block, can you see that? The bottom block starts from 0 and goes to 9.
Yep. And the
And
top
I
block doesn't
didn't-
have Krone in it.
The top block is correct, and the bottom block is weird. And in fact, when I started work this weekend, because I hadn't been in the house for 9 months, I forgot about that. So I started assembling all these blocks, and I probably done 6 punch downs, and then realized I had made this mistake and I'd used the wrong blocks. And fortunately, I have small blocks, so I'm in the situation where it doesn't matter which of the two houses I'm in, the right tool is in the other house. And in this case, a large number of Krone blocks are in the other house, and I didn't pack them. I packed something else by mistake.
By the way, I will muddy the waters that I have, 66 block tools and 110 block tools.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
88 block tools,
Oh God,
which
I'm not even
almost
sure.
nobody but telcos themselves actually used for terminating incoming 1,000 pair cables, and that was it.
Yeah.
And they're almost interchangeable, but not quite with 110.
Well, I did discover over the weekend, apparently the thing about Krone that was different is that the displacers are at 45 degrees. So the wire goes straight through, but the slicing is at 45 degrees to the wire rather than across the wire, which it reduces the likelihood that you're going to nick the wire and cause it to split. Really interesting. Anyway, there you go. That's the project at the moment. I will have this finished maybe halfway through today or not. I've got to finish it because all the phones in the house have to be changed over, like 17 phones.
I thought you had it done at one point, or is it just just because of the replacement?
No, I had it done with the old key phone system, but the great thing about this is I have 24 lines, and you can plug into any line. You can plug a key phone, or you can just plug an ordinary phone, and then all of the legacy display phones can be connected in, and you can pick up a legacy display phone and actually dial some. It'll be cute.
Oh,
It will be cute.
here's an interesting thing. Manhattan apartment building was made in like 1910.
Yeah.
Copper phone line. I've maintained a copper line, parts.
Yeah.
No more copper in Manhattan. They're closing it January.
The last I know Verizon wants copper to go away in the worst way.
They sent me.
Hang on. You're talking about copper. You're talking about last mile copper.
Yes.
Yes.
Last mile to
Yeah,
yes.
yeah,
Okay.
Verizon's been
You've got
trying
to be a little bit careful.
Well,
Yes.
what we call horizontal has been trying to kill it for years.
Yeah. So I got a letter that my home phone, it's going, but I could switch to FiOS. Building management won't let FiOS be installed.
The management
So-
of your building.
The building won't let
Yeah.
the fiber optic be run. So essentially,
Jay, you're in Manhattan?
technically yes,
Where?
65 and York.
Okay. I'm Lex in the 30s.
How can it be technically Manhattan if like
It's
you?
a long story,
Oh, okay.
but officially that's where I am.
Address of
Lex
record,
in the
but not where
30s
he
would
physically
be-
resides.
Yeah. Okay.
Um,
So you're somewhere, Dennis. That makes you somewhere like due east of the Holland Tunnel.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. All right.
Verizon got a big assist in their desire to make copper go away when Hurricane Sandy came through. As one of the high-level folks involved said, when it gets into your power distribution system, salt water is not your friend.
No.
Oh no.
And I saw their major switching station is at 140 West Street, and I saw pictures of it after Hurricane Sandy came through. And I said, personally, I would just bulldoze it and start over. But they chose to redo it to repair the actual facility, and I had deep feelings for the frame techs who were trying to do that. But in the meantime, they basically just said, okay, existing copper that still works will continue to work. If it breaks, we will not fix it. We will not run new copper.
Yeah,
Your
Dennis,
choice is cell phone or fiber.
Yeah.
How did what is it, 60 Hudson come out in Hurricane Sandy?
I'd have to look stuff up. I seem to recall seeing something about it, but I don't remember details.
Okay, because from my, from the views I usually get, it was at 60 Hudson and 10 Water Street are the ones with all the carrier interconnects in them, and also the one where AT&T set up their famous NSA tapping operations. That was Hudson, I think. But yeah, those are the ones that if those get taken out, then half the telecom in Manhattan goes out because it all goes through there, and all the services to Wall Street, although the data centers are not there.
No, the data centers are somewhere in Jersey.
Yeah, but the trading desks, they have to move.
Yeah.
Anyway, I need to go and do things because it's very much the start of the day here.
Yeah, Mace, we should catch up later today sometime.
Sure. I've got a lunch thing, but I'm free later morning and mid-afternoon, I think.
Mid-afternoon, maybe. Then it's evening for me. So
yeah, towards your later evening would work.
yeah, okay.
I will send a version. I will send an unsanitized version of this document out to the 5 of us on the basis that I will say do not distribute, and it won't be, but we'll work out what a sanitized version might look like.
Cool.
If that's
It's a
acceptable
good
to
place
everybody.
Fine by me. It's a good place to start.
Yeah.
Yep.
Look, Jay,
Thank-
thank you. I think you're doing a really good thing, and I think these are good discussions. I'm happy to have another informal discussion like this. I think it's possibly good that they're not particularly bounded, but I think
Agreed.
if for each of the discussions, let's make sure that we've got, say, 2 or 3 talking points with we know we have got to end of job because. And then allow wide-ranging discussion on everything else. That would suit me.
The 2 of these meetings that I have been on so far have been very pleasant because they were informal and unstructured, and people could simply bounce off of each other. I would want to see that continue and perhaps have a different meeting that was structured with bullet points to be more focused.
But I will say, keep it up. Keep it up, Jay.
Okay.
This is valuable.
See you on the mailing list and live meeting in a month.
Or something.
See you then.
Okay.
Okay.
Very well.
Bye.